Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Nolan, and this is my intro presentation for the Special Education for Building Administrators. So I'm a high school science teacher in Denver, Colorado. My school is a pretty high-performing school. It's mostly white, middle, upper-class kids. I teach freshmen primarily and some sophomores. And this is my first year at this school. So for the remainder of this video, I might talk more about my last school because I know a lot more about the special education program there as opposed to here. For the past 6 years, I taught 7th grade science in the Silicon Valley. It was a high-performing school, very diverse, and mostly upper class. But then that had some really stark contrasts between our very rich families and our very poor families in that district. So a reflection of my previous school, my current school, I have not even been to an IEP meeting yet. And I have a few special ed kids in my classes, but I don't know that much. So I'm going to primarily focus on my last school. So my middle school had a really hard time keeping special ed teachers. The year before I left, we lost about half of the staff, and then we lost a few more when I left last year. Paras were paid very, very little, especially for one of the most expensive places to live in the country, the Silicon Valley. And SPED teachers were only given one extra off hour to do all of their case management, and their caseloads were 30 or more kids. They had very large class sizes and large caseloads. And talking to some of the teachers that left that school, they were much happier in their new placements. They were given a lot more time to handle those cases the way they should be handled. We did a lot of IEP testing at that school because our kids were so high performing. 30% of our students were 2 years ahead in math. And then I'd say 70% of them were a year ahead in math. And so the kids that were at grade level or below grade level really stood out, and they were frequently tested for special ed. And what that ended up doing is that our SPED classes were mostly Black and Hispanic students that I don't personally think had learning disabilities. They just were below grade level and below, far below what the average at that school was. And so when I started 7 years ago now at that school, we had 3 special ed teachers. And then when I left, we had 8 because the population was changing so much and the testing was just out of control, putting kids in these special ed classes. The class sizes were 20 plus kids in what's supposed to be a small group special ed class. So my personal critique, I am very flexible and understanding with special ed students. I try to work closely with their parents and their case managers. I give them the time they need. I am kind to them. I give adjusted tests to those kids that whose IEPs or 504s specify that they get a special test. But I'm not great at differentiation on assignments in class or planning ahead. I'm not great at planning ahead in general, and then planning for something modified or adjusted for my special ed students sometimes falls to the wayside. So I know that I spend more time then in class helping them because their assignments aren't differentiated for them. So I know I have a lot of room to improve in teaching my kids with IEPs and 504s. So my plan for improvement, I want to plan more purposefully for differentiation and be more consistent in grading according to what their IEPs say. So if the IEP says that they get 2 or 3 extra days, then I want to make sure that that's what I'm sticking to and not giving them more leeway and teaching them to take advantage of that. A school plan would be to pay paras more. My mom was a paraprofessional, so I understand that they don't get paid very much. Luckily, it was just a job for fun for her. My dad made enough that she was okay, but To live on a para wage is not possible anywhere. I would want to hire an additional sped teacher to reduce class sizes or hire additional paras to decrease the ratio. There's just too many kids for not enough adults, and the kids are not getting the specialized attention that they really need. I would put more students in intervention classes rather than giving them IEPs, especially at that middle school. There were so many kids that really just needed targeted intervention in reading and math, as opposed to being in a special ed class where then they are not held to as high of standards and they kind of all dragged each other down in those classes. More professional development for teachers on differentiation and testing strategies. I know I would benefit from that, and I haven't gotten very much of that in 7 years. So that's a really cheap and easy way to do make purposeful change as well. And to encourage all general education teachers to attend IEP meetings. So at my last school, they did try to get as many general ed teachers to those IEP meetings as possible. But in my current school, they only ask one of us to come. So I have not been to an IEP meeting this year. I'm going to one in 3 weeks. It's my turn. But if they had asked me, I probably would have gone to all of them because I think it's important to know what is in our students' plans and to follow that. So funding impact. I know that a lot of those ideas cost a lot of money, like hiring additional staff, teachers or paras, and sometimes that's just not possible with the funding. Some are possible without increasing funds, like the professional development, especially if it is teachers teaching teachers. So run by the SPED teachers could be free. And also encouraging the general ed teachers to attend the IEP meetings might be free depending on what is in the contract. So at my last school, it was in our contract 5 hours for meetings. And it was kind of implied that if you were asked to go to a meeting, you would go. This contract is the same thing. There's a clause that says, before or after school, if it's a meeting, a staff meeting, IEP meeting, something like that. So that could be free. And I know it wouldn't be popular with a lot of teachers, but I think it really would benefit the kids. So that is my presentation. I look forward to working with all of you guys and learning a lot more about special education. Thanks.